everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast, where today I welcome Mr. Eric Fraser and Mr. Ryan Jones of Corvus Lore. Ryan is a guitar player. Eric, a guitar player as well. Eric, we had on last time, just the lead guitar player, I guess, and Ryan, rhythm guitar player and singer for Corvus Lore. They're a rock and roll band based out of the Bay Area. And, we'll throw San Jose in there, right? I know that's a hometown for you guys. They've shared stages with the likes of Richie Kotzen, Eric Martin, Tesla. The list goes on, many more. They've just released their sophomore album, and I'm going to go with Lucida. We're going to talk about that. On the Valley of Fire Records label. As well as having just released their third single from that record. It's called Blind and Broken, and it comes with one hell of a video. So we definitely have to talk about that. That had to be pretty fun. So guys, welcome. Thank you so much. Eric, great to have you back. Ryan, great to meet you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, guy.
Definitely appreciate your time, and thank you for having us both on today. It's great to be able to connect with you, Scott.
Yeah, it really is. This is special, man. Thank you. Lucida, that's what I know.
Lucida.
It is Lucida. Okay, yeah. That's my first. What I want to say, somewhat like a name, but being a photographer, there's a camera Lucida,
right.
Thing, and Lucida actually is a term in constellation and brightness and stuff like that. So
okay.
I put too much thought into it. Tell me about the title of the album. Where's it come from? How'd you settle on that?
That's very funny that you mentioned what you just shared with about constellation and all that, because that term for me really is somewhat very similar to what you just described. It's when you talk about a constellation element of it, it's really about the brightest entity within the certain section of the sky and all that.
Right.
And I kind of took that as like home, like this is the center of everything, or more or less this is where we belong and this is what it's all about. And because a lot of the songs on the album kind of relate to a coming of home of sorts, or understanding and getting back to what things are and just really coming home. Lucida to me was the obvious title, although with an obvious title I had to do some digging, but but you hit it right on the head. I mean, that's really what it's kind of about.
Yeah, and it's a great title because it's is it a feel good, overly positive, bright sounding record? Not exactly. There's dark moments in it, and it's a serious record for the most part. But it is a feel good record. I listen to it and it makes me feel good. It's kind of that. We had that in the 90s, I think. We had that Alice in Chains kind of darkness, and the Pearl Jams and the Soundgardens and the STPs, and it was kind of a darker period of thematically anyway, but it all it made me feel great, but kind of revel in that darkness a little bit. Do you ever feel like your writing is darker than you want it to be, maybe, or is it an effort to bring some light into your writing?
Right. I let the story lead itself. So if there's a particular subject matter that I'm writing about, I'm not sure exactly what the outcome is going to be. As you sit down, you put pen to paper and you start piecing notes together and everything. Sometimes it does lead to, an area that's a little bit darker than I was anticipating. But the overarching point for me whenever writing is I want to be able to get a point across. And again, this is usually coming from a personal experience of, myself that I have within my life, or band members and stuff like that. And I do want to shed light on something that I've gone through and share it with the world, but write it in a way to where it's like it means something potentially to some, the listener totally differently, right? So I'm not going to be totally on the nose about it. And if I can, at the end, I like to try to expose like a little like, yeah, here's some darkness here, but here's the way out of it. Right. So I think that's what you're picking up on a little bit, is there's always like a way out of it. And a perfect example of that is like Blind and Broken. You know, you look at the video and that last shot of the lead actress, Avery Hawthorne, who just crushed it. The look on her face coming out is just captures really the lyrical content, the journey and everything, and summarizes where we end up. So yeah, it's not an easy process, but we try.
Yeah, I was going to say that is a challenge. Happy records are easy, write the song.
You got so much baggage, man. I got to just get it out there.
But to give me your baggage and make me feel good afterwards, that's pretty good. I mean, that's not easy to do, and you do it well. It's great. Now, I mentioned you guys both guitar players. How do you work that into your writing? Do you, how do you decide who gets what guitar part? Eric, I know you're a great lead player. Ryan, are you always providing the rhythm track? Is that what's decided, or is it, song by song, you guys decide on what's going to be played?
Well, it's really easy, Scott. Eric does all the really hard stuff. I can't do that stuff. I just kind of, muscle my way through playing guitar. So
no, I mean, to answer the question, Ryan and I both come up with guitar parts. So there's a few tracks on the album where I might have had an idea, say for like an intro or a B or a C part. And so we're not relegated to saying, Eric, you will never play rhythm guitar. Ryan will never, it's definitely, best ideas win. And I think between the two of us, we just try to complement each other. Inevitably, if Ryan has a guitar part, I genuinely try to think of doing something different to complement it. And that it's worked out so far.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, I love the dual guitar thing. Old school, Wishbone Ash, that kind of thing, and the Thin Lizzy thing. And, I love that harmony guitars and the way they interact with each other. And it's really nice to hear that on this record too, because there's a lot of acoustic stuff. Not a lot, maybe, but there's, some acoustic stuff works its way into this. And I think it just adds a really great foundation for the musicality of what the band is capable of. And I know you guys get comparisons to Stone Temple Pilots as the number one, right? Ryan, your tone is similar. Velvet Revolver, of course, with Scott Weiland. Are you comfortable with those comparisons? I just think the band is so much more than another Stone Temple Pilots, and I hate to hear that. It seemed that anybody gets that from this band is mistaken. Are you comfortable with those comparisons? And how would you describe your sound?
Do you want to take that, or you
Yeah, I think that anytime you get a comparison that's relatable to a wide audience, it's a natural thing to do. And Ryan and I definitely have an appreciation for the band, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, the DeLeo brothers to me are like the musical poets of at least my generation. Even though I grew up in the 70s, there's just something that's very interesting about the way that they craft their songs. But I do feel like the band has much more influences that we draw upon. But I could see why that might be a natural path for people to go down.
But it doesn't bother me. I mean, to me, it's a compliment. I mean, if you're comparing some bands like that, I mean, to Eric's point, the DeLeo brothers, I mean, they just do not get enough accolades, in my opinion. They're they're totally overlooked all the time, and their writing is just really, it's profound. So I mean, I take that as a compliment. But are we trying to emulate, any one particular band? No. I mean, going back to my point about writing songs, is like I don't know where the song's going to lead lyrically. It's the same thing with the music itself. We enter the room, or someone presents an idea. We don't know if it's a good idea. It's going to win out, but we're not trying to emulate any one thing or another. It's Corvus Lore.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
absolutely, absolutely. Someone's going to hear this that hasn't heard the band. They're going to go to the Spotify page, pull up the profile, and they got room, they got time for one tune, and then they're going to move to the next band. That's just how it goes. They're going to pull up your page. They're going to hit something. What do you want them to play?
oh man.
What should they tap? What play button? I know that list there. Your populars and your albums, and
What's Scott? You would think that answer would be immediate. I mean, we've put out 3 singles so far, and we
Yep.
chose them based upon strength of material, showing different sides of the band. But interesting enough, as soon as we announced the full album last Friday, people on socials were chiming in what their favorite song was, and sometimes it wasn't the 3 songs that we put out there.
Right.
But if someone was coming to us brand new, I certainly would not have a problem recommending a song like "Romantic Traffic," and or maybe even "Calling Jupiter." I don't know, Ryan. You have an opinion you want to weigh in there?
It's really tough. I'll just say I point him to the first record. No, it's we get a lot. I think Splinter on the album is a sleeper.
Sure.
It's
Yep.
because it's got really strong guitar riff oriented elements to it, which that's a big part of this band. You got some pretty epic drumming going on there with Joey Cloutier, which really captures his playing ability and style. And then just the vocals in that song are really catchy, at least in my opinion, on the chorus, and it kind of captures a lot of bits and pieces of what all band members are capable of, and being able to deliver, and also at the same time be an earworm. So it kind of has a lot of those pieces that really resonate with me.
Cool. Yeah, they're gonna hit one of those, and they're not gonna go to the next band. They're gonna go to the next song. Absolutely. Your musical tastes growing up. You guys mentioned, an admiration for the DeLeo brothers and Stone Temple Pilots. Were you really? I mean, do you go back? Like Eric, you said you grew up in the 70s. What influence did you have, and what really sparked you to pick this path, really, that's a career in music?
Well, at least picking up the guitar initially, my first albums were like AC/DC, Dirty Deeds, Ted Nugent, Double Live Gonzo, AC/DC. Well, I already said Dirty Deeds, but certainly Highway to Hell, and then Van Halen came along, changed everything, and so I definitely grew up learning guitar in an era of ferocious guitar gods that were redefining the instrument, and really just like a shot to the arm of making players want to be, something more than just playing, ZZ Top songs or All Right Now, and so nowadays I definitely have a reverence and a respect for earlier prog rock, like with Yes and Genesis. Most of my time, if I'm going to listen to music, is going back and listening to what was done then, because the songwriting is not derivative. I mean, they were creating a path of making music that was, in my opinion, very special, even if you just look at the lyric writing and the melodies. And compared to what we have today, I won't go into the top 20 of Spotify or Apple Music, because some of it is is just deplorable when you hear just a drum machine and somebody barely singing auto tune over the top of it. So I go back to my roots, I guess is the best way I can put it.
Do you think that those influences creep into what you're doing, what you're writing today?
100%. Go listen to or anybody listen to Lost in the View, and Ryan and I have some I would call them polychords, the chords that are built on top of other stacked chords. And to me, that when we get to the bridge, it's magical because there's a mellotron, there's sleigh bells, there's acoustic guitars, there's electric guitars. The bass is doing something counter to what we're doing, and to me, that felt like something that may have come from the past.
Yeah, cool. Ryan, yourself, what'd you grow up listening to? I know your mother is a trained opera singer, yes?
Right. Yeah. Music was in the house early on because of my mom, and my mom also plays piano. So it was already floating around and about. But musically, growing up, my very first album I ever bought was actually Styx. Kilroy Was Here.
Wow.
Yeah, and I played that thing nonstop. It was such a killer record. I got into, actually a ton of Billy Joel from a writing perspective. I really love Billy Joel just because how he's able to pull together a story and play it out. I mean, look into like Scenes of Italian Restaurant. I mean, that's just phenomenal writing, in my opinion.
Masterful.
I mean, that musically and lyrically, that thing just goes from one corner of the globe to the other end of the globe, and it's really incredible. So a big, huge Billy Joel fan. I used to drive around. I grew up in Simi Valley, California, and I used to drive around town listening to Mozart because I love the theatrical element it brought to me in my head. I would drive around. I would just, as the music was playing, I'd be like depicting like all these scenes, like a movie just playing out of my head. And I just really love that. Now, obviously, we're not doing anything close to that, but I'm just sharing because I was kind of all over the board. My mind was always like trying to think of and create different things all the time. And so I had a lot of different music influences, from the ones already mentioned to, the typical ones, or not typical ones, but, from the Zeppelin and the Van Halens and I had Billy Idol, and I had all kinds of stuff. I was all over the board. But when it came down to like really good writing, I really gravitated towards Billy Joel just because his ability to craft a song together is, to me, in a lot of ways, it's unmatched.
Yeah, he's something. When I met my wife, she's just a huge Billy Joel fan, but not really. She's not a music fan, really. She likes, in passing. She loved the 80s stuff, but she's not real into music, really, oddly enough. But Billy Joel, every word of every album, she's just,
right.
It connects with her for some reason.
Because it's real. It's life. He writes about life.
Yeah.
And I think that in a lot of ways, he's been a huge inspiration for me, and I'm trying to write the same thing, but in a different way, right?
Yeah, and that's great to hear. And all of these influences from just you two guys is that amalgamation of all of that in the music is great, man. Because I think you mentioned the Mozart and the theatrical aspect of that, and it's grand. It's just large,
right?
And top of the mountain kind of stuff, and I think you get that. I think you get that. It doesn't sound like Mozart, of course.
Right.
It's grand. There is a triumphant feeling to it. As you mentioned with with the single, Blind and Broken, you get that coming out of the that baptismal arising.
Right.
It's that's a theatrical aspect for sure.
Absolutely.
It all works in there. And I listen to Calling Jupiter, and I hear some Chris Cornell. I hear a little Simple Minds, touch of David Bowie, maybe.
There you go.
There's a lot of different things I hear. Of course, you get the Scott Weiland thing, um, Tiger Lily Rumble. I hear Bowie and Scott Weiland and things like that, and I notice a Zeppelin-esque kind of an acoustic sound, or an Alice in Chains, Jar of Flies, Sap acoustic thing. What I really notice is the placement of these songs in with Splinter and things like that,
Mhm.
and with the heavier stuff, Boxing Ballerina. How much time and effort was spent sequencing this record? Because it's a record like I used to listen to when I was a kid. It went from here to there to there to there. It was a journey. This record does that in a singles world. So did you take the time to figure out what songs should be next and how they should fit together and the sequencing of the record?
Yeah, we definitely did. I don't know if all of us arrived at the same place. We all had our own opinions.
Of course.
But I liked how you kind of talked about it, because I was going to describe it as like, a good road trip type of album, right? You start at this beginning of the destination, and what is the last song that you want to hear by the time you arrive to your final destination.
Mhm.
It has a lot of ebb and flow to it. So to me, I mean, I wanted to be able to, have the album be rhythmic in the way to where you have this high and you have this low and you have this high, and just take someone on a musical journey per se. So it was difficult. It was difficult. It's funny you mentioned Calling Jupiter. I think Calling Jupiter is perfectly placed on that album, because as you get towards the latter end of that album, there's like some nuances that start coming into play in there. And it's like, what's going on? All of a sudden, boom, Calling Jupiter comes in there. And it's like, okay, this is how the beginning of the album started off.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, Eric, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, definitely, between each band member, we had our own thoughts. And Scott, you hit the nail on the head in terms of trying to create ebbs and flows and exploring different moods of each song. But I will say that I remember, Ryan, our discussion about kind of the bookends between the album starting and the album ending. So if you listen to Romantic Traffic, the first line of the song is "Lights flicker on the headlight, one ticket for the show." To me, that sounds like exactly what we're about to do from
Right.
a musical journey standpoint.
Right.
And then if you fast forward all the way to the end of the album and you look at a song like Lost in the View, that to me feels like kind of like the closing of a book or the closing of a chapter
Right.
in life. And so that's, to me, I feel like the perfect bookends for these 9 songs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Ryan, you mentioned Styx. I'm a huge Styx fan. From way back to now. They're putting out great records now. But what Eric was talking about with that is, it reminds me of the Grand Illusion. Welcome to the show kind of thing, and then a
Right.
grand finale at the end. It's a journey, and it's very much like that. It does feel like that, and I love that. I mean, I'm a concept record guy. I love concept records. Not that this is not a concept record, but there is a journey here, that in a singles world, like I said, it's kind of nice to get a full record, something that I listened to straight through because I didn't feel like I could stop. It was one
Awesome.
of those things.
That's
I
great.
was curious as to where I was going to go next.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. So it's capturing your imagination, and yeah, it's not a concept record, but there's an overarching theme to it, right? And like as
Mhm.
described on the onset of the interview, it's like there's a lot of uh, uh, symbolism going back to the home theme. So
Yeah,
that's really what a lot of the record's about: being authentic and coming back home.
yeah, that's cool. Um, the writing of the record, it's been around for a little while. You've been, holding on to this record, and just released it now. When I'm looking at COVID time. Was it written over COVID? Did that change the writing process at all?
No, it didn't. I mean, we recorded the album 2.5 years ago, so it's crazy to think about that. Um, so, I mean, when we first went in the studio 2.5 years ago, it was pretty much done. I mean, there was some writing done in the studio, but it was more or less probably a lot of, I think, a lot of Eric was working on different various lead parts, and just when you know how it is, you get in the studio and you have the nuts and bolts of the song, and I was like, oh my gosh, here's a cool area, we should add this or that. There was some arrangement stuff that kind of was done on the fly in the studio, but we had it pretty much all tied up in a nice little bow tie.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, I would.
yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just to Ryan's point that the bones and the structure was really all there, but the time that we did spend in the studio was definitely with a heavy attention to detail to Ryan's vocal delivery. This album, I think, is, in my opinion, a beautiful showcase for his writing, his vocal range, the melodies that he comes up with. And then second to that would be the drums. I just completely love the way the drums are mixed on this album because they sound different from one song to the next. And our producer, Tim Narducci, we call him Golden Ears Narducci, just poured his heart into this project. I mean, we caught him at a perfect time, I think, with his schedule and with life, and he was able just to give us his full attention.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I'm so glad you went into the production and the mixing of the record, because there is something that stands out to me on this record, and the first record. Your bass player, the bass line in this are so high in the mix. It's so refreshing to hear. There's so many records where there's maybe not even a bass player. Who knows? You don't hear it. It's just not there. It's a bottom end. It just kind of lazy in the background, or it's just thumping along with everything else, and it's not lit up. This is lit up. I mean, bass lines on this record are tremendous, and you hear them. They're out front. It's like, look, listen, watch this, bang, and there it is. That really, really struck me. First, would you agree with that? And secondly, was that intentional?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it was intentional because when you have a powerhouse like Mike Neto, he's got to be up in the forefront. I mean, he literally is on another planet when it comes to just musicianship. I mean, his songs are, and I call them songs because he's literally playing a song within a song. Yeah. I mean, his bass lines are just, they're like I said, they're a song into itself. So, and how he writes and pieces those together to mend and gel well with what's going on with the song, with the rest of the song, without stepping on it. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible talent. So it was totally on purpose, and you got to showcase something like that when you have that available too, because there's not very many people, in my opinion, that I played with over the years that could actually do what Mike does.
Yeah, Mike is a LA session musician in his past, very trained when it comes to like music theory and just composition and understanding. He plays guitar great, and he comes from the school of Paul McCartney and Chris Squire and these and Jack Bruce from Cream, just these bass players that were just known for, to the way Ryan put it, writing a song within the song. Not that I would ever want to release a Corvus Lore album that had no guitars on it, but it probably could be done.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, and I'm a progressive guy. I listen to everything, but I mean, I love progressive music. It reminded me of like, Neil Morse band stuff, or where the talent in the band is lit up. It's highlighted in certain spots. When there is something there, you want us to hear it. There's not a, this is a guitar band thing going on. You respect that talent of what, that musicality of the band, and it's there's spotlights all over the thing, and it's great to see a bass player doing that and not stepping on the song. And
Right.
that's really key. There's so much going on in his bass lines, but they just play to the song beautifully. I mean, it's really immaculate. I love
Well,
it.
he does, because he is a special talent. He really is.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
love that aspect of the record for sure. Because the guitars are always there. You're gonna hear guitars. It's a guitar based rock band. But you get some tasty bass lines there, man. It's and of course, his counterpart in the rhythm section, like you said, drums are tremendous to keep up with that. So it's a tasty record, guys. It's really,
I think it's got.
it,
I
it
appreciate it.
really
Thank
is.
you. Yeah.
Um, when you started putting this thing together, did you have specific goals like that? Did you say, let's make these short songs, or, let's make bigger choruses, or, whatever it might be? Was there specific goals, or did you just kind of go where it took you?
I think with the songs already being pretty much established and written when we went to the studio, when we were, so we had a pretty good idea of what song was going to be like. The chorus was going to be this way, and the verses were going to be this way, from a production element. But then once you got the tracks down and you're listening back for the first time, I think that's where you actually start absorbing it in a little bit different way, because you're so used to playing it, right?
Right.
So now that you're sitting back in the control room and you're hearing it come back, there's ideas that float into mind. It's like, you know what, this chorus does need to be a little bit more grand, or we want the delivery style of this chorus to be this way. So there was some decision making after hearing the first initial playback, like how we're going to like produce certain pieces of the songs themselves, without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah. Was there an overall thing that you wanted to achieve with the record?
Just build a kick-ass record, man. That's all we wanted to do.
Damn straight, man. Doesn't
No,
everybody? I mean,
but Scott, we definitely in the songwriting process are very well aware of how long can we keep someone's attention for. Like, there's nothing in these songs that is superfluous or filler or put in there for the sake of jamming out or extending things. One of the best compliments I ever got was Ryan and I in the band were playing in San Francisco, and a fellow band member from a different band came up, and it was his first time hearing the band. He said, Eric, I think I really understand Corvus Lore. Is like the songs are really easy to get into, and that's the way he put it. And I said, great, I'll definitely take that as a compliment. I certainly wouldn't want to be like confusing or
yeah.
right.
And like progressive music, has a tendency to do that for many people.
Right.
It's something you have to sit down with it and analyze a little bit and absorb. It's not a first time through thing. It takes work, and that's not always good. There's some things you work at and it just never happens. There are many progressive records by great bands. I'm not going to mention their albums, but you just don't get them,
Right.
and when it happens on a smaller scale that it isn't progressive and it's supposed to be accessible, and it doesn't happen, then it's even worse. But yeah, you guys, it's not simple. What you're doing is, like I say, there's so many things going on, and intricate parts in these songs, played masterfully. So it is accessible though. It's it's kind of that accessible. It's not a progressive thing, but you got those same elements, which is not easy to do. Something, yeah, that is a huge.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's I think it also depends on what the audience, what audience it is that you're, that's listening to it, right? I think rock, you're going to probably get a little bit more weighted of more musicians, right?
Right.
and they're going to take the time and energy to kind of jump into that and dissect it and discern it and just kind of figure out what's going on. And then, the other side is always just people who just love music in general, and does it make them feel good, and do they like it in general? But to your point, yeah, writing music that is obtainable, sound familiar, stuff like that. Not that you're trying to create something familiar, but for whatever reason, it sounds, natural and easily obtained to them. That to me is a hard process, as you described. It's not easy to sit down and churn out music and just say, yeah, this is going to be the earworm of the century. That you're trying to do that in general, but it's a learning curve, so it takes a lot of time, and it may sound simple. To your point, it's actually pretty challenging, as a lot of musicians already know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you got a great adventurous video for the new single, Blind and Broken, of course. A great actress in this, beautiful woman, doing a great job with water, underwater. Eric doing pretty great stuff underwater.
Eric's a natural. He's part dolphin.
He looks like it in the video. This thing's really, really fun to watch. It's really interesting. It fits the underlying triumphant, I'll use the word again,
right,
almost spiritual feel of definitely the video and the song. So yeah, tell me about the video. Now it's the same video maker. You guys have won awards for your very first video. So you got the same video maker. How is this presented to you? Hey, let's go underwater and play guitar and have, actresses around and stuff like that. How does this come about?
I will say it was ambitious.
Sure looks it.
We knew it was going to be ambitious, but I don't think we realized how ambitious it was going to be until once we got into the filming process, especially on day one, which was all the water scenes. Yeah, just at a high level. So I wrote the video script, and I wanted to be able to capture really in the heart of the song, which really the song is about me finding Christ and just living with the dirt of life and all that, and just coming clean in a lot of ways. But that could be so many things for so many people, but that's what it means for me. And so you have obviously, a lot of the water scenes, and you kind of captured it perfectly, like the triumph from coming out and cleaning and all that stuff. And we learn to live with a lot of bad things in our life, and sometimes we don't even realize what they are and how to get out of it or whatnot. But so this song really depicts that in a lot of ways. So I wanted to show the dirty side of things, and obviously a good way to describe the cleaning side of it is water. And so pulling that script together, we kind of wanted to show all those things, and how, as the video progressed, how it went from one phase to the next, right? And that's why, I go back to that shot of Avery Hawthorne, the actress, very end. It's very triumphant.
It is.
It's a great way to describe it. So, but yeah, it was very ambitious, and I'll hand it over to Eric. But I think the guys are still mad about the underwater scenes, because we almost lost Joe.
You had to write it underwater. Come on, right?
Yeah,
the thought, Eric. Dragging your guitar underwater.
Well, there was some initial pushback, just trying to get our arms around like how it could be accomplished. And Ryan, God bless him, traced down like the exact casing for the camera to sit in to be able to do the underwater shots. And Mike Sloat, our director, was definitely up for the challenge. I'm a presumer, but I have to say, having a guitar strapped around my neck and trying to tread water in the deep end, the pool, and then submerge and try to do filming underwater it certainly was a challenge. But I think our director made the most of it. And Yeah, and so I think our drummer Joe, he came pretty close to gulping down some water there, but
He
I'm
was
glad
not
that
happy. His wife came up to me the morning of the shoot and goes, Joe's not a very good swimmer. And I'm like, you're telling me this now? I mean, what are you talking about? And Joe was funny. If a week before leading up to the shoot, he just started dropping little hints about, I don't know, blah blah blah. And he goes, I could barely hold my breath above water, let alone underwater. I'm just like, oh gosh.
Love it.
But
Uh,
yeah,
y- yeah, I mean, people, you gotta go see this video if you haven't seen it, please. There'll be a link in the description. Hard work like that, and doing what seems like the impossible, really makes for awesome, awesome visual. It really does.
yeah, I'm really happy with the outcome. It looks like a short film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And
Yep.
we really wanted, again, I think the overarching goal was to like, hey, here's the embodiment and the content of the song, but in a visual form. And that's again a challenge to do. And I mean, Mike Sloat, he's an incredible video director, producer. I mean, that guy is he's got talent for days. And so, him pulling all that together in the editing process, just absolutely phenomenal. So, I mean, you could dig deep with all the stuff that he's done, true talent there. But we just wanted something that not only did that, but it was also just different. I mean, I'm not going to say any particular rock band or videos, but a lot of rock videos to me are just like set up, play, and there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not interested in that. I want to do something different that really pulls someone in.
Yeah. And it's definitely different, and it's different among your videos. You have diversity among the ones he's done. This isn't really like any of the other two from the album for sure. So and it's probably the last Corvus Lore video, right? At least for Joe. Will you have another one from the album?
No plans right now. We're just like albums out. Let's just gig the heck out of it right now. That's really what we're kind of looking at right now.
Yeah, that's
Unless
cool.
Eric has something in mind. I don't know. Do you have a video?
No, I'm glad that Scott pointed out that all three of the videos are just completely different.
Yep.
They're part story driven with a little bit of band performance, but the aesthetic between one to the next is just hopefully giving enough variety and visually appealing enough to pull somebody into what the band is about.
Yeah, I would definitely say they are, and it speaks to volumes for your videographer is he's doing things that are out of the box, not it's not the same thing every time. So yeah, it's really really cool. Just that set of three that you have is tremendous. It's great. You mentioned gigging. When am I gonna see you, man? You coming around to Chicago? What's the plan for touring? I know it's not easy.
No, it's not. Yeah, we're just looking to book more gigs right now. We have a couple on the books, but they're all in California. We got the Retro Junkie up at Walnut Creek on the 10th of August, and then we have the Whiskey A Go Go down in Hollywood. It's September 21st, I think. Is it, or somewhere around there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's with Tommy Parrish, I think, right?
From Brittany Fox, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we would love to get out of state, and just haven't had that quite opportunity on it right now. But we're definitely working on stuff like that to hopefully get us out of the state soon. We'd love to come see you, man, in your neck of the woods.
That would be great, man. I look forward to it. Yeah, and fans don't always realize that either. Touring, folks, it's not an easy thing, and it takes time, it takes money, it takes a lot of endurance. So it's all the semantics of putting something like that together are pretty complicated. So I wish you guys all the best, and you know, I hope you can get a tour going and come out and see me. That would be special, man.
Love to, Scott. That'd be awesome,
Yeah,
man.
you got it.
Very cool. Very cool. Guys, please come back, man. It's always a pleasure to have you. Love the music. Thank you for creating it. And you know, folks, get out and see these guys if you're in the California area. So watch the videos. Definitely check out Lucida. It's on all the platforms. Yeah, it's tremendous. Corvus Lore. Eric, Ryan, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the album and really to do a deep dive into the band and everything that we've been doing and sharing it with your audience. It's awesome. So I'm really greatly appreciative of all that. Trust me, what you do does not escape me, and you're doing great stuff. So getting that stuff out there. So very grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. And like I say, doors always open. I'd love to have you guys back anytime you want.
Absolutely, man. We
All
would
right.
love that. We would totally love that.
Very cool. Very cool. Have a great day. I'll see you guys soon.
All right.
All
Thank you,
right.
Scott.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.